All right, let's do it. Okay, we are good. Hello, everybody. What's up, crew? What's up, Martians? How we doing today? Really glad to have you guys here. Today, we're going to be doing an AMA with our founder, Hunter, and with Charlie, our technical project manager. So, we did collect some questions from you guys ahead of time. We'll be going through those. We'll also be open to having you guys either come up on stage and ask questions, or if you want to ask questions in the chat, that's totally fine as well. Essentially, what we want to do is just be, like be available for you guys to be able to ask anything that is on your mind, especially since we aren't doing an episode of Made for Mars this week, which is typically where we tend to take questions. Um, if you have not heard about that, that has been we are not doing an episode this week. Essentially, we have a new thing that we are creating that I'm not going to give away all the fun, exciting details about, but we have a new thing that we are working on. So the team is taking off this week in order to plan that out. In addition to, we'll probably take off some upcoming weeks to plan that out as well. But something new is being built in the background, so that's very exciting. Um, Also, we did, just for a general housekeeping announcement for you guys, real quick, we did send out a survey yesterday, which is an anonymous survey. We're essentially trying to collect any input that you have, completely anonymous, to help us inform and like improve the experience of playing Colonize Mars. So we know a lot has happened over the last few weeks. There's been tons of news and announcements and changes and things that have come to you guys very, very quickly. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can in order to collect your feedback and make sure that your voices are heard as we continue to develop Colonize Mars and Made for Mars. So, that being said, let us get into our questions. Feel free to ask
Um,
anything. Oh, go ahead, Hunter.
before, yeah, hey guys. Before we get into the questions, I think it would be good just to have Charlie and myself. We can kind of talk through the last week and some of the things we did to mitigate and kind of test some of the things that were bugs. I think maybe we can talk a little bit about the Marcia overdrawn. Maybe Charlie, you can give just a high level bullet point of some of the things that we did to stabilize that system, and then we can also move on to like hazards and just talk a little bit about how the dev team is tackling that and some of the details there. I'd love to give some more shed some more light on kind of that process.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. I will pass the mic over to you guys then and just let me know when you're ready for questions.
Perfect.
So would you like me to just talk through it a little bit, Hunter?
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay. Um, hey, just want to say hi to everybody. It's great to be on this side of the mic for the first time, and it's great to have you all here. So as probably most of you know, we had an issue with overdrawn accounts that I suppose was a couple of weeks ago or a week and a half ago. What we've done to address that, just really quickly, as far as Hunter was talking about. So we've done a number of things from a code perspective that have actually made it so that we can avoid as much as we can any basically multiple transactions occurring at the same time, and so for a particular user account. So what we did was we concentrated on making sure that things were performant, but at the same time that we also and that we were able to scale out to all our users, but also that we had consistency when it came to the accounts. And we really took that as sort of the model for the architecture that we have. We've always taken that as the model, but what we've done this time is really tried to err on the side of making sure that every account, when we add up all the transactions, when we commit transactions to that account, that the summaries are correct. But we did more than that too. We also did a couple of things. We beefed up from a monitoring perspective. We made it much more robust how we monitor the system when it comes to the accounts, so that we just have added protection that in case this ever showed up again, we could catch it right away. And then I would say the third thing that we're doing, and we're in the process of doing this, and it's really a two-phased approach. The first phase is basically putting in actually redundant checks within the code to make sure that at any time that people are withdrawing from their accounts, that we are checking balances. So that's just a good thing to always do. Gives us an extra layer of protection. And then we're also going through and doing further threat analysis when it comes to not just security, but also just data validation.
Yeah, thanks for that, Charlie. I think you had like a good analogy to kind of like an ATM where there was sort of the summary and then there were the actual transactions for like a bank account. Can you walk through that and just kind of explain maybe a little bit more in detail, like the difference and kind of what we were seeing there?
Yeah. So at the heart of the issue wasn't so much that the transactions weren't correct, and our ability to have high fidelity when it came to the transactions wasn't correct. It was in the calculation of the balance summary. So what I was telling Hunter, and the analogy I was using would be, it would be as if when you went to the ATM allowed you to withdraw as much as was in your summary, in your balance summary, but it didn't take into account necessarily, it didn't double check, let me put it that way, that all of your transactions, when you did all the debits and credits, added up to that balance summary and that those were equivalent. And so it would allow you to over withdraw, but it wouldn't be like it actually changed your transactions at all or the accounting system behind it. It was just the summary balances. And so that's why when I say that what we're doing now is we're actually checking at a number of points within the process, or any process that people go through when it comes to actually affecting that summary balance. We check that summary balance um, in a redundant fashion to make sure that we're always committing, um, we're always taking action in the game in a way that's in accordance with the transactions and not the summary balance. Is that good, Hunter?
Yeah, that was great. And then if anyone has any questions on that, we'd be happy to discuss further. And then I think the other thing is the hazards. So obviously we've been investigating that. We have sort of a plan of action later today, to test some of the new things. But maybe you can talk through some of the things we've been doing there.
Yeah, I think with the hazards, there's a couple of things that we're addressing within hazards. And one of them is to make sure that um, one of the issues with hazards today is really not so much with the back end, but how it's showing up in the UI. So for instance, I noticed, many of you will probably have noticed like a hazard hit, and you will have seen, for instance, not all of the damaged items are in what we're calling the repairs widget, or the repairs list on the bottom that's blinking red on you. And then you'll maybe come back later and there'll be more in that list. And that's partly because we were doing that asynchronously. So we've kind of changed some of that. We're now doing that synchronously. So all of the repaired items, or all of the items needing repair or reactivation, should all show up for everybody at the same time, at one time. All right. So that'll make a clearer experience for everybody. Then the other aspects of it were that we did have an actual bug in regeneration. So we weren't actually correctly, um, correctly regenerating and reactivating over a period of time. And we've since fixed that. That's what we're looking to deploy in the next 24 hours. Is that fixed to that? Then I would say that there were other sort of UI bugs that we're fixing as well. So some of you might have noticed that there was some health might be at 101%. That was one of the issues we were seeing. And that's really a sort of front end UI bug. It's not really 101% in the back end. But we're making all those fixes to make it much clearer. Obviously, we want the correct values on there, but also we want to make the experience much clearer. So when you're taking action, you see that action within the UI. It's surfaced through the UI, and you can play the game with all the information and all the correct information.
Perfect. Yeah, so that gives us a little bit of clarity in terms of the hazards. That's a big priority for us.
Can I ask a
I would
question
say,
from the
yeah,
chat real fast?
yeah.
So Flickerbits asked, so the issue with the negative balances had no relation to the staking rewards.
Yes, it did not have any. It did not have any relation to the staking rewards.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think that context is really helpful. Go ahead, Hunter. Sorry.
I think we're ready for some questions now, unless anyone has any questions on those ongoing things that we're addressing.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. So I believe, let's see, we had a question a bit earlier. Let me double check. Manja is Manja's going for it. Okay, well, I'm actually going to use the sheet that we were using in order to collect questions over there. Give me just 1 second. I'll pull that up for us. Okay. All right. So here we go. In the future, will it be possible to lend some production? For example, I have a temporary storage and I would like to get the necessary for a period of time, so I lend someone production.
Okay, so for example, I have a temporary shortage. So let's say like a temporary shortage on like water or food. I'd like to get the necessary for a period of time. So I lend some production. For me, I'm a little confused about the wording of this. I think, for me, like there's, it's possible for folks to import resources into the game from a decentralized exchange, to stock up on resources um, if they're low. In terms of lending production, I'm assuming, I don't know, maybe that is that referring maybe to lending someone production in the game itself, like having a peer-to-peer transfer or something like that in the game. In that case, we're focused, I think, a little bit more on stabilizing the current experience. I don't think that I'm not totally sure what that's referring to, lending someone production. Does that make sense to you, Charlie?
I think
Maybe I'm reading past this question. I don't really understand it.
Sorry, I think the idea is to rent, not to lend.
Oh, to rent
To rent the production
equipment,
of someone
etc.
else, rent the equipment, yeah.
It's not something that we've put on our priority list. We could, we're open to discussing what people want. That's one of the things that we're collecting feedback right now from folks. So definitely take that survey and help us, kind of prioritize the rest of the year.
Perfect.
So Stephanie, from your point of view, are you thinking people are asking this question because they are sort of they may be getting blocked temporarily or for some period of time in their resource chain, and they want to sort of dislodge that and make sure that they can kind of move on?
Yeah, I guess it's the idea, and also some people may have a collection that are like very imbalanced, like you have a lot and lots of items producing construction, for example, and you are not planning to use construction. So, but you don't want to sell the cards maybe, and then you could say, yeah, I would like to lend them for 1 month to someone else. So they would get the production and I would get something in exchange.
Got it. So in some ways, solving production, being able to solve production issues in an easier, quicker fashion, sounds like it's kind of the request.
Yeah. It's
So I
like it
mean,
for me.
one feature we are looking at is manually deactivated collection strength, which means you can basically reduce your collection strength manually, and you wouldn't get the production from that collection strength, which, you know, the benefit there is that it allows you to balance your collection more. But the downside to that is that you're missing out on the value of those cards in terms of producing resources. So I don't think it's a perfect solution. With lending production, we're now talking about pretty complex system where we would need a way for people to almost publicize that they're willing to lend. I mean, think of it's almost a marketplace essentially. To accomplish the same thing, it is possible to just export those resources out of the game and sell those on decentralized exchanges. You can do that now. So with those construction resources, you basically export those out. Someone else buys them and uses them in their resource chain. We actually want to put resource swaps in the game. We think that could be pretty simple for us to do, and would also facilitate basically this use case, but it's just a different way to solve, I think, the same problem, which is if you have an imbalanced collection and you have a large production of a certain resource, getting rid of that resource and being able to essentially, gain from selling that resource is the idea. So does that maybe that helps clarify it? Like, there's probably a couple different ways to solve this. The one that would basically cost us the least amount of dev time would be to put in resource swaps rather than designing an entire marketplace for lending. And those are the trade-offs that we're making every day to make sure that, you know, we can get things done in a reasonable amount of time.
Perfect. Yeah, that's really great. That actually answered Bright Eye's question in chat as well. So if we are good, we can move on to the next one. Which is also from Mew Mew. And the question is a roadmap under consideration or already complete for the next phase, like after phase 4? And will it be possible to update the roadmap on Discord?
Yes, that is our focus this week, is to really just updating our roadmap. You know, I will say that we are getting a lot of great feedback from our survey. Just, you know, kind of because this is a little bit less of a formal discussion and, you know, we want feedback from you guys. You know, basically the discussions this week are happening around stabilizing and maintaining our current game. That's the first priority. So we launched quite a few features. We're well aware that there were some bugs and some issues, and so those are things that we are actively spending time to make sure that it's as stable as possible. And this is around resource chain, hazard system, colony development, which, you know, is launched, but we still need to go through the, you know, NFT minting distribution process there and make sure that that's all working properly. So those are kind of the big pieces. Specialties also need some stabilization. Things like innovation, bonuses, those kinds of things. So that's the first priority. And then really what we're looking at is it's always been important, and especially now, like onboarding and instructions. So making it dead simple for new players to start having fun playing the game. We're well aware that the sign up process is burdensome, and we're looking at our analytics to sort of understand when people are dropping off. Is it sign up? Is it connecting the wallet? Etc. And so we're analyzing that and trying to understand how can we increase the retention and make it as easy as possible. So things like a simple tutorial to start the game would go a long way. We have all these 101 videos. We think it would be great to add those into the game contextually, so people can really sort of understand the different aspects of the game as they're playing it in context. Free-to-play mode is something that we are prioritizing as well. The idea there is that it's primarily for people that are on other blockchains that want to try the game out before doing any sort of wallet connection. And and then the next thing is expanding our audience. So supporting the ability for us to reach beyond Wax and into other audiences, but that requires us to architect an NFT bridge, because we want our NFTs to be interoperable between different chains. So that's something that we are working on right now, but it is, a challenging development task, because we need to make sure those NFTs, the metadata is attributed for, and then we also need to make sure that we want to make it so that in the game you can buy NFTs with any wallet that you connect, rather than just needing a Wax wallet. That will allow, because the ultimate goal there is that someone from the Binance Smart Chain can go to Colonize Mars, can sign up with a MetaMask wallet, can go into the store, can buy NFTs with a MetaMask wallet, and then they see those NFTs in their MetaMask wallet, and they basically don't need to sign up for any other wallets. That's kind of the goal there, because that would obviously allow us to expand to different audiences. And we're also, focusing more on how do we get more folks from Wax to try the game out. So that's something that we're going to be focusing on in the short term as well. Completing the realism loop for gameplay. So things like the dynamic weather system, integrating that. We have some scheduling systems that for astronauts, we have some ways to kind of continue to tie the different gameplay aspects to realism that is going to be really important for us, to basically continue to make the game as realistic as possible in terms of the parameters, the inputs that are driving the simulation. And so we have some kind of key deliverables around that. We are also going to launch basically the ability for you to see what's going on under the hood in terms of our data platform. And so that's something we've been working on and we want to share. So that's coming out pretty soon as well. I can keep going, but I think that there's basically those are the things we're working on. I'd love to get everyone's thoughts on this, but for me, I think that based on all the conversations and discussions we're having, and seeing, it feels like we really need to focus more on making the current gameplay experience more engaging and just exciting, and the gameplay itself more rewarding, rather than focusing too much on major new features like land. So we can also kind of give some more specific ideas around that. But for us, it seems like things like the animations for colony development were really well received. Expanding that system out so that every time you do something cool in the game, you get a really great visual sort of audio, kind of feedback on that. the map itself, should we make that, is performance a big issue there? It seems like it is for us. Perhaps we go with a downloadable map, something like that makes it a better experience for people. So just like, enhancements and focusing on that over the next few months, rather than jumping into something major, and not really fully fulfilling what the game can be as it exists right now. So that's kind of where what we're thinking about.
Woo. There's so many questions and there's so much here. Maybe we talk a little bit about, my goodness, y'all. Maybe we talk a little bit about liquidity, because we had the liquidity event and some people's pages still show 0 Marcia earned per day, despite it seeing their wax Marcia. So maybe we can get like a quick response to any ETA that we can provide for liquidity rewards.
Charlie, why don't do you know of that bug?
No, I don't, and I saw that come through on the chat. It would be good to get a few more details if that is happening. Because I'm not seeing it that way, but that's not to say it's not happening.
Yeah, so what we might want to do is just go offline with a few of the folks that are seeing that, and then we can run a query on their accounts and see if it is something on the back end, if it's something on the front end, and then we can sort of problem solve from that point on.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, because people should be seeing their daily rewards, and the total daily rewards that are allocated distributed as well. They should be seeing that right there in their user interface around the liquidity staking.
I also do want some feedback on the multiplier system, because it seems like some people feel like that's a confusing system. It's meant to be basically a weight that your contribution gets applied to your contribution, and so like it's almost the reverse of some staking systems that exist, where you stake and then there's a fee when you pull your liquidity out. For us, it's basically over time that multiplier goes up and it makes it more and more powerful in terms of your contribution. So it kind of incentivizes longer term liquidity and increases that over time. We also broke down the pool weight and like the weight that you have in the pool and showed the leaderboard there. And then the rewards itself, we also are breaking down those rewards coming from store sales and then also the game hourly distributions. So I think, yeah, any help on just us clarifying it, what specifically is confusing about the system, if there's any, visual feedback that would help it more. All those things would help us improve the experience more, so that we're able to see more success there. And then also Alcor they decided to change all of their contracts basically the Friday the Friday after we launched. So we were kind of scrambling for a couple days there, making sure everything. We basically had to rewrite everything, which was not great for the launch of it, and we had no we had no idea that they were doing that. So we have to roll with the punches sometimes.
For sure. Let's see. There's a lot here. Why does the use in-game balance versus the normal per hour resources chain, why are those not the same? Some of our cards also don't gain anything. That's from Kenji Sushi.
So the resource, yeah, so this is basically in the resource chain. If you check on in-game balance and then you check it off, those shouldn't be different. Am I right there, Charlie?
They're going to be when you look at the projected like use in-game balances, when you look at the projected moving forward, it's going to be it's going to assume though that you're starting from zero. So would be what you are producing, what you would produce. But I believe in the other mode, right, that's where you're going to see only what actually is getting produced based on the balances, right? Because it doesn't use any surpluses. So they're going to be slightly
Yeah.
different.
So basically, theoretically, they shouldn't be like the difference between two rows in the running balance shouldn't be different. It's just the numbers themselves, because one is using an infinite sort of theoretical simulated starting balance, and one is using your actual stockpiles of resources. The running balances will have different numbers, even though going down the chain, those differences will align unless you run out of a stockpile of a resource mid-chain on that run, and in which case the simulated values will look different, because simulated values are essentially not, you're not running out of resources at all, whereas if we're using a real in-game balance and you're running out of certain resources, you would see a decrease in your production.
Yeah, I think there is also here, Charlie, it's a reference to some of the case we have had, like the solar panel we had a few days ago, of cards that when they have just been added or changed, does not seem to appear, but then
Oh yeah. Yeah, so
they see there are lines of cards that they don't see. They have them, but when they go on the using game balance, sometimes a line does not appear. An item does not appear, as if they did not have it. I've seen a few cases like that.
Yeah, so Charlie, maybe you can talk a little bit about because we did spend some time on that, and we did see some issues that we resolved, right?
Yeah, so there were we basically have now gone in and we have made the code more robust when it comes to syncing your actual collection. So there was a situation where you weren't seeing some of the items that you actually were supporting on the in the item list. That should be taken care of at this point, and it should be syncing I believe within a minute. So if cards are being purchased, cards are being transferred, and they're not syncing within the resource chain within a minute or so, that's probably an issue. But that is what we should be seeing. I would say the other thing is, and then I would tell you to report it if you are switching from using game balances to the projected, basically the simulation mode. If you are seeing a difference in the collection there, I would also note that, because you shouldn't be seeing a difference in the collection there. The other thing I would say is that if you own a card but you're not supporting it, it's kind of a rare instance, but just owning a card does not have it show up in the item list within the resource chain. It has to be supported by you. So it's all the cards that you're supporting is what's in the item list.
Okay.
And like, one of the thoughts we also like are kicking around in terms of just enhancements is like real-time feedback in the chart at the top when you adjust your sliders, when you change your ownership card selection, stuff like that. So you do get some more feedback. We're also like considering some ways to visualize the resource chain in the map, maybe seeing like a 3D representation of the resource chain going between the items you support in the map. So, you know, let us know your thoughts, right? Like let's talk through some of these things. If you guys have ideas around how you'd like to see the resource chain represented in the map, the idea there is we want, you know, people to like, we want to leverage the 3D representation of the items in helping you make the best ownership selection, and also in helping you identify areas to make the make it more efficient, you know. And so anyways, before I get too far down that road, yeah, I will, like, we did solve the cache busting issue with the cards, the resource chain itself. The balances should be lining up now, and we're continuing to monitor that.
Great. Okay. The next question. So this is one that's popped up a few times. What's the reason behind the 2% transfer fee? CM already has the highest collection fee I've seen on AH at 8%. And additionally, another 2% of the Marsha slash resources gathered from those NFTs get lost. Any chance of dropping the transfer fee in the future?
So, you know, the transfer fee, like, we're spending thousands of dollars a month on server costs. Like, it does not, it's not free to keep this game operational. So, you know, we need to offset those costs somehow. Our 2% fee does help us offset some of those costs. But the other thing is we want people to keep resources in the game. We want you spending resources on, you know, working towards specialties and achievements, because at the end of the day, this is a game and we want to encourage that behavior. So it's a small threshold, but it does contribute to those two things. The 8% fee on Atomic Hub, I am, you know, open to us reducing that quite a bit. I think we need to, like, we're weighing basically some, the more transaction volume we have on Atomic Hub, the more that we rank higher in the list, and it's important for us to have visibility on secondary marketplaces. So, you know, if you guys feel strongly like we need to reduce that, then let's reduce it. You know, and if we will see a larger spike in sort of trading volume, I guess the question I really have is around, you know, do you guys feel like there's a certain fee that you would be buying and selling cards on Atomic Hub more? And at what point would that make sense? I think something like 5% would probably be reasonable. That seems pretty average. But let us know in the comments, and we'll work on something that would be more appropriate for what you guys want. I see 5% would be awesome by Tronity.
3 to 4%. Oh, we have. Of course, we have the negotiator. What's up, New
Yep.
Year? Nice skills, dude. Would it be possible to adjust your collection strength, like the same slider for Marsha resource percentage? I think this could be helpful to help players balance the chain.
Yeah, that was what we were talking about earlier with the manually deactivated collection strength. So it'll basically allows you to adjust your collection strength per item type. But I mean, really what we want to get to is that you're utilizing all of the collection strength you have efficiently. And, you know, like, for instance, if we reduce the fee on Atomic Hub, maybe you would be more incentivized to list that card on Atomic Hub, which would allow you to maybe trade it for a different card, and balance your collection strength that way. So there's a lot of different ways to solve for that efficiency. And manually deactivating collection strength, it's the benefit of it is you get that instant ability to balance things, but the drawback is that now that collection strength is not being utilized at all. And so that's kind of the thing we're weighing there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see, what else do we have here? What will come first, Mission 5 or land sale?
So we do have we're looking at this right now. I will say it's quote unquote mission 5 will come first. Land sale will not come for a while. We are looking at pushing back land sale until we have a gameplay experience that is really standing strongly and is exciting in and of itself. I think we have a really great foundation of a game, but there's things that we can do, simple things that we can do to make it extremely just more enhanced. And so one of those things is basically figuring out the right schedule to release and basically expand the main colony. And so we're probably I don't know if the mission nomenclature is going to be right for us anymore now that a lot of things are coming from construction and convoys. So we're going to be looking at sort of the way to structure how we release new NFTs, new item types into the colony, so that it happens more often and there's more things to look at. So yeah, we're working on that right now, but I would say the rest of the year is going to be just figuring out how to get those new items into the map in the way that makes the most sense. One of the challenges is kind of the time scale that we use in the game, and I think if we speed up time, that creates the situation where we might be pretty far into the future in Mars time, and so we need to make sure that we're aligning the near term technology that we're representing in the game with an appropriate time scale. So time is actually probably one of the core problems that we're trying to solve, so that it makes sense within the realism.
Great.
Hopefully that I don't know. Hopefully that we're trying to get to the same conclusion as the question, but the way that we get to it, there's actually quite a few steps to think through to make sure that from a game play and tokenomics perspective, it makes sense.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, this is very early in the life of a game. People are so used to getting them once they're complete or mostly complete. It's like everybody here has access to see what developing a game is really like and all
Yeah.
of the steps you have to go through in order to actually have the complete game. That being said, Janoots had a question they've asked a couple times. I want to make sure we get to it. Will lower rarity cards be released within the conmats and convoy pools, similar to the NFT pool? Past missions released DMs and golds when OCs were released.
So the problem we really need to solve is getting new players into the game. And the reason I mention that is because with the NFT pool, we saw a lot of the same accounts getting cards over and over again. And in order for this game to be successful, we need to get new players into the game. So we don't really see how that's going to support that mission right now, which is why we are focused on making the store as marketable to new players and making the experience to get into the game as our priority. The NFT pool was I think it seemed like people liked it from our current player base, but it's not helping us get new players into the game. It wasn't successful from that metric, and so we need to kind of reassess how many cards we're quote unquote giving away, because we need to basically have more new faces playing the game. So that's our focus, and And for right now, it doesn't make sense to continue that same tokenomic mechanic because it's not resulting in an expanded audience.
So many.
Can I hop in here really quick, Ashley?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, I'm seeing I saw a number of questions on things like about how bonuses and discounts are stacked. When it comes to some combination of some things here, when we're actually doing the distribution for the staking, for liquidity staking. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up is Hunter and I have been doing a lot of talking about, and we've started to do some design around how we better do two things within the game to provide more information to users. One is actually put some of this information around things like, that are in currently the user guide or in the player guide, like taking some of that, putting it actually in the game itself, putting the 101 videos in the game itself sort of in line to make, and then being able to add to that infrastructure so that we can give more information about what's actually happening in the game and how the game works. And then I would say the other aspect of this is we're working on furthering our notifications, particularly with the Discord community, so that when we do have a stake and rewards distribution, we actually do that randomly throughout the day. So it's at a different time every single day, or I guess it could not be because it's random. So, but making sure that we have an ability to notify the community as to when that actually happened, and then also just a continued commitment to providing open APIs for the data so that the community can monitor the game, see what's happening in the game, how things are computed in the game, and various things like that. So we do have a plan to kind of make that more robust. We're working on that now, and that's one of those things that just will roll out over time.
Mhm.
So we have about, I'm gonna say, like 3 minutes left here because I know a few of us have other calls and work and things that we have to get to. So getting into the final moments here, Hunter and Charlie, I want you guys to be able to, if you have seen any questions in the chat that have gone unanswered, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, let's do like a general kind of sign off update. Any final words, final thoughts from you guys? I know there's a lot of questions. It feels like they're going to keep coming in, and we need to find a place to cut it off. So I want you guys to be able to say
I
any
think it's
final
great.
things.
It's great to see the activity. These questions, maybe we can jump on another AMA in the next couple of days and just continue to talk through this. You guys are the, why we do this. So we want to be here for you guys and give as much visibility as possible into the development. I kind of feel like a little bit, there's a lot of complexity to developing this system, and maybe we haven't shown that complexity so that you guys can kind of see under the hood a little bit more. So maybe things like even like literally just if we just gave you guys like a summary of our stand up every day or something like that, and just like showed you guys like what we're doing every day, so you can see that. I did notice that was one thing you guys were talking about in Discord. Like we're trying to be more open in terms of how we communicate. So like, yeah, we'll continue to make that effort. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the shows, some of the videos that we have. Are there things that you guys want us, like, are there communities you want us to reach out to? Are there interviews you want me to do? Are there marketplaces we should be on? Especially in Wax, like we have, I think, a lot of opportunity to expand to Wax projects. I mean, we have a playable game right now, which is there's with a lot of strategic complexity, and I think that the more that we can kind of activate people within our community and also get more people sort of advocating for the game on Wax, I think we can actually, it'll help us all. So let's continue that conversation and just, you know, if we need to do another AMA to kind of continue answering some of these questions and debating some of the strategic decisions and how we're advancing the development, let us know.
Yeah, and I just want to say from the development team point of view, that I want you guys to know that the development team is very committed, in particular to being good custodians of your resources and your gameplay experience. So, you know, we have, you know, I realize that there have been some issues like the overdrawn issue and some issues with regeneration, but the culture of the team is very much that the first thing that we are concerned with primarily is making sure that, you know, that we are good custodians of your balances, of the in-game experience, of your resources that you're putting into the game. We understand that, we take it seriously, and you know, we will continue to make that a more robust system, both in terms of code monitoring, enabling external, like I was saying, external APIs, so that you can individually actually go look at it, at values and things like that. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. Plus, you know, we've always had a culture here too of making good on missed resource runs, and we will continue to do that as necessary. And we're just hoping that that becomes less and less necessary as we become more and more robust in what Hunter is correctly referring to as a complex system.
Great. Well, this has been super awesome, very informative and helpful. Yeah, we'll have the recording for this available for you guys and anybody else who wasn't able to attend in case you would like to go back and listen to it. Would definitely love to do more AMAs like this in the future. And also, don't forget to go and fill out that anonymous survey if you guys haven't already. This is something that we're doing this week. We're collecting a ton of feedback, as much as we possibly can, in order to make improvements and make changes and you know, just help us make Colonize Mars even better for you all. So thank you so much for coming. Appreciate you. We'll do another one soon.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Bye, guys.
See you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.